Accurate history is teaching white Americans how white slave owners raped, beat, humiliated, mutilated, murdered, and cannibalized their slaves.
It takes a brave person to come out and tackle on such important facts about Black history. And for the fact that she is a white person, it makes the video even more interesting. Hello guys, welcome back to the channel. I hope you're doing well wherever you're at. So in today's episode, we are going to be reacting on Black history facts, since it's already a Black History Month, because I've realized that there are a lot of lies that are being told to people, and probably some people are not even enlightened about their own history. And by the way, if you are a Black person and you are watching me, my apologies to you. I really don't intend to bring back the pain that slavery brought into our lives. Allegedly, I've also heard that there are universities in the US that are going to be closed because they are teaching about slavery. So let us react on these videos and let me know what you guys really do think about it.
Accurate history is teaching white Americans how white slave owners raped, beat, humiliated, mutilated, murdered, and cannibalized their slaves. Accurate history is teaching that George Washington's false teeth were made out of his slaves' teeth. Accurate history is teaching that Abraham Lincoln may have said some words and signed some shit, but he did not physically do anything to free the slaves. The white abolitionists also often get almost total credit for freeing the slaves. I bet you've never even asked yourself what the slaves were doing to free themselves, and the answer to that is most of the fucking work, including giving the ultimatum of war. But then we get a bunch of white people mad that their kids might feel guilty if we teach real history. It's not about your white child's feelings. Teaching accurate history isn't about white people's feelings, but that does sound like something that someone who's only ever been taught a white glorifying version of history would counter with. Ask why we ever felt like we needed to curate a false version of what white people did and did not do to Black people to begin with, and then ask yourself why white-ass politicians are verbally attacking real history by calling it slurs, which is, by default, also the act of calling Black people slurs.
Now you can imagine people refusing to teach their children about the history of Blacks just because they don't want their children to feel guilty of what their people did to my people. However much you try to run away from it, it will always remain in the history and it will never go away. Read for you one of the comments that I found in this very video. Do I feel guilty? Yes, I do. Do I also know that it is not my personal fault? Yes, and my guilt not only taught me to accept and help everyone, but my guilt also taught me empathy. There is something that they call burden of guilt. However much palm-colored people refuse to teach about Black history, or even if they abolish schools in the US from teaching Black history, the history and the fact will always remain there. It will never take away what they did to our people. It will never go away. The pain will never go away.
There is a lie central to American slavery, a lie that the slavers told themselves. There is no doubt that their lifestyles were opulent, that their clothes were the finest, that their wives were adorned in the newest pearls, the flashiest gemstones, that in the summers they could vacation to Europe and travel and see the world, that there is an opulence that appears genuine on the outside, but once you scratch it just a bit, you realize why the South was willing to burn the entire country down to keep their slavery. It's all rotten. It's rust underneath the gilding. Then once you take that top layer of paint off, there's nothing in it but a hollow soullessness. And that hollow soullessness is reflected in the way that a planter's wife looks overlong at any slave with lighter skin than his mother and wonders, is my husband the father of that child? It is in the way that the head of the household, supposedly this moral paragon, who spends all his time abusing his female slaves in one way and beating his male slaves in another, that when he leaves the home, he too is paranoid that his wife is finding satisfaction with someone that isn't him. It's fear, rank fear, that the poor whites in the community would one day realize that the reason they are impoverished is that all of the unskilled labor, and by the 1850s, a large portion of the skilled labor, is being done by those who are owned instead of those who are free. That rather than compete with their peers of multiple ethnic backgrounds for jobs and their merit would guide them, instead, that poor white man must understand that his job must be sacrificed on the altar of slavery, and if he figures that out, he might set the system on fire. It is the understanding, persistent above all others, that there is no liquid cash to spend. There is wealth, plentiful wealth, but that wealth is tied up in land, in human bodies, in the manor, in the tools, in the cotton, but not tied up in money. And so the liquid cash, the capital that these planters would spend on their lavish vacations, fine suits, and the best cigars, are taken out on loans, asset-backed loans, where their house is the collateral, where their slaves are the collateral, where their land is the collateral, that if the system changes, or God forbid, the system ends, their wealth and prominence dies with it. And so they concoct lies. First, lies that they tell themselves, that of course that child with lighter skin doesn't look like my husband, even when he does. Of course my wife, who looks overlong at one of the house servants, doesn't mean anything by that, because she can't. Of course, the white men in my employ love me, respect me, value me, because they must. Of course, the slaves are happy here and wouldn't rip us apart if given the opportunity for all the pain we visited on them, because they must be. And so when it is Abraham Lincoln who ascends to the presidency, he is the tyrant for the South. He is here to steal your property and take your business and your home, not because he is, but because he must be. Thank you so much for your time. I hope you enjoyed the story. If you did, hit the button so the algorithm brings you back. See you next time.
So we all know this man, right? And you were probably taught at school, or not, that his teeth were made from wood or animals' teeth. But did you know it's not fully the truth as usual? So here's a picture of his teeth, his dentures, which were also made from enslaved Africans' teeth. Let's get into it. So since the enslaved didn't have access to sweets or just sugary food in general, their teeth were in better condition. So what George Washington did was actually pay money to have healthy teeth from enslaved people to then have it placed in his mouth. When he was inaugurated, he had only one tooth left in his mouth, but also had the teeth from 317 enslaved people to choose from. He ended up choosing 9 of them and was supposed to pay about 19 pounds, but only ended up paying them 6 pounds. So this rumor that his dentures were made of wood, not a single one was made of wood. Why are we still learning that it's made from wood? But on a serious note, the dentist and other dentists had many clients, not just George Washington, right? And if y'all hated black people so much, we were the bottom of the barrel, don't even want to sit beside us. You are superior to us. The fuck you doing with black people's teeth in your mouth? It makes me wonder if it's really hatred, or is it jealousy? And since historians don't have all of Washington's dentures, and it's unknown how many dentures he had throughout his lifetime, so then how many more were actually filled with human teeth?